and I know that you have tried to do things the right way. So I'm asking you, begging you, to do the right thing now.
What does Savannah Guthrie's latest plea, seemingly to the people responsible for taking her mom, mean? It has been nearly 6 months since authorities say a masked man took her 84-year-old mom, Nancy, in the middle of the night. And it has been weeks since there has been a major update in the investigation. Potentially until now. The Pima County Sheriff just made some very interesting remarks on where this case stands. Could authorities be closing in on the answer to the question that has hung over the Guthrie family, countless members of law enforcement, and millions of people who have followed this story? Where is Nancy Guthrie? We're on The Case, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. All right, guys, welcome into the show today. Just want to point out, we have a bit of a temporary setup right now, dealing with some electrical issues in our studio. So this is our home for today, as we continue to follow what is potentially the biggest story of the year. And it's a case that still has so many questions that have been unanswered as the days and the weeks go by. Where is Nancy Guthrie? It is so hard to fathom that 6 months after an 84-year-old woman is taken from her home, not in a rural area, not in a place outside of where law enforcement is located, but in a metropolitan area. How is it that someone can break into someone's house in the middle of the night, take an 84-year-old woman, and still 6 months later, it seems like we don't have any answers? It has specifically been 25 weeks since Nancy Guthrie was taken from her home in the middle of the night. This is a picture of the person whose identity still remains a mystery to this day. This person wearing a mask, they seem to be armed, they have a backpack on, and they're on the doorstep of Nancy Guthrie's home. This video, this image, it was taken in the early hours of February 1st. Now, Nancy's daughter, obviously Savannah Guthrie of the Today Show, has done a lot to keep her mom's story in the headlines. And she posted a very interesting video on social media this week on Monday, July 27th. It was her first video speaking directly to the kidnappers in months, specifically since February. I want to show you this video, then we'll talk about it.
I'm coming on today with a very specific message. It has been months since our mom was taken from us. Our family is in agony. We are in a nightmare that will not end. Nothing about our situation has changed. We have done our part, and we will never stop looking for her. We will always ache for her and feel that hole in our hearts. The world can be a cruel and unforgiving place, and I know that you have tried to do things the right way. So I'm asking you, begging you, to do the right thing now. Make the right choice. Help us find her. Tell us where to look for her. I truly believe it is never too late to do the right thing. Help us bring this situation to an end. For all of us, no matter where we've been and what we've done, I believe there is always a way home. Please make the right choice.
So Savannah posted that video July 27th. We went back through her Instagram, and it appears the last time she posted a video, that personal selfie style video, specifically speaking to the people or person who took her mom, was February 27th. And so now, 5 months later, you have to ask yourself, why now? Why did Savannah choose on that day to post that video? And also, is she just putting this video out there to keep her mom's story in the headlines, to make sure that there's still awareness about the search for Nancy Guthrie, who's still missing? Or is there more to it? Is there a new open line of communication with the people who took her mom? And what you just saw there, is that off the cuff, or is that a crafted message with the help of law enforcement? We went back through Savannah's Instagram, and I want to show you some of the other messages that she has posted, specifically talking to the kidnappers. Take a look at this one. This was the first time she spoke to them on February 4th.
Our mom is a kind, faithful, loyal, fiercely loving woman of goodness and light. She's funny, spunky, and clever. She has grandchildren that adore her and crowd around her and cover her with kisses. She loves fun and adventure. She is a devoted friend. She is full of kindness and knowledge. Talk to her and you'll see.
So when you watch that video, there's a very interesting part of it. Quote, talk to her and you'll see. Now, when that came out, there were a lot of people online who drew parallels to the 1991 movie Silence of the Lambs. And in that movie, there is a senator who makes a televised plea to the bad guy in the film, Buffalo Bill, for the safe return of her daughter. And the quote in Silence of the Lambs is, Catherine is very gentle and kind. Talk to her and you'll see. Now, it is unclear at this point whether that is just a coincidence, but it is something to think about. Now, in the wake of the new video that Savannah Guthrie put out on Monday, July 27th, Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos made some statements to NBC, which we'll talk about in just a moment, that may give us an idea of where they are in this investigation roughly 6 months in. But before I get to that, I want to play this other video that Savannah posted. This is one from February 7th.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
Then she made this plea on February 15th.
And I wanted to say to whoever has her or knows where she is that it's never too late. And you're not lost or alone. And it is never too late to do the right thing. And we are here. And we believe. And we believe in the essential goodness of every human being. And it's never too late.
So we reached out to Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos for an update on this case. He did make some interesting comments to NBC News about the case in a story that aired on Tuesday, July 28th, today. The sheriff said, quote, we have so much DNA to sort through. We have so much in terms of video evidence to look at. He also said, quote, I'm still positive that we're going to resolve this case. In recent weeks, there has been some new reporting out there about the alleged ransom notes that were sent reportedly to the Guthrie family and some media outlets in Arizona in the days after Nancy was taken. Now, you might remember there were two, which the FBI is still reportedly investigating for authenticity. A crime reporter named Brianna Whitney, who worked as a TV reporter in Arizona at the time Nancy Guthrie went missing, just shared parts of what she says was in the first ransom note on the Crime Junkie podcast. So I want to read for you what she says the ransom note said. She says it begins with, quote, hello, Savannah. We have your mother, Nancy. She is safe but scared. She will be held for ransom, and once payment is received, she will be released unharmed. We will be holding her for a maximum of 7 days. Now, she says that the writer of that alleged ransom note then demands millions of dollars in USD, which is interesting because, as she points out, if you watch that episode, people who say USD are typically people who are not in the United States. If you're in the US, you just say dollars, right? Now, they also just mentioned Savannah in the letter, not her sister and not her brother. Now, it is important to note that the Mexico border, just about an hour away from where Nancy Guthrie lived in Tucson. The note goes on to say, quote, once payment is received to the Bitcoin address below, she will be released within 12 hours of deposit to a safe drop-off location back in Tucson. If the payment is not received by the last deadline on Monday the 9th at 5 p.m., she will be killed. Your mother is aware of this, and her life is in your hands. It is in the best interest of everyone to have this completed as soon as possible. You will not be able to contact me from here on out. There will be no negotiation. Do not play games. Law enforcement will not be able to help you. Now, Whitney says at the end of that alleged letter, whoever wrote it says that Nancy had a white smartwatch on the floor near her bed, and there was also a mention of a floodlight that was destroyed in her backyard. Whitney says that there was a Bitcoin wallet also listed at the bottom of the note for where the money could be deposited. Now, the FBI hasn't publicly said whether that note's legit. NBC News has reported there was a second alleged ransom note sent to media outlets that reportedly had said that Nancy Guthrie had died. That note did not request payment or give an apology, but NBC said it expressed regrets over Nancy's passing. Now, there are questions on whether these ransom notes have any validity, whether they're real. There have been several others sent to TMZ, and it's unclear whether those have any sort of validity to them. July 1st, Reuters, though, did publish a report saying that FBI sources told them that they do not believe the letters are authentic. NBC, though, in their reporting has said that they have sources that claim that it is possible that those letters are real. Again, the FBI hasn't publicly stated where they stand on that. Anyone who knows anything about what may have happened to Nancy Guthrie, I'm going to put this up on the screen. You are urged to call 1-800-CALL-FBI or the numbers you see here for the Pima County Sheriff's Office. Joining us now to talk more about the latest development in the search for Nancy Guthrie is Will Svilar, retired detective commander with the Chicago Police Department. Always great to talk to you on these cases. What do you make of the latest message that Savannah Guthrie's put on her social media?
There was a lot of interesting things in that message, Chris. One of the things that struck me right off the bat is one of the first lines of the message that said, "We've done our part." What could that possibly mean? I mean, to me, that can mean that there's been some kind of exchange, possibly. What other part is the family of the abducted? What other role do they play except to pay?
What do you make of like the timing of it too? I mean, she has not posted she's done a couple interviews. She did one with Hoda. And then there's been, a couple moments where she's made mention of what's happened. But as far as, we saw a couple of these, very personal messages she put on Instagram at the beginning of this back in February, and she hasn't done it for months. What do you make of the fact that 5 months after the last time she posted something like this, here she is again? Like, does that tell you that there is that type of development, or maybe she's being coached by the FBI as opposed to just trying to keep this story in the news by posting a video that people are going to be talking about?
Well, I think you got a combination of things going on here. One thing, and I knew this as a watch commander and working midnights in Area 2 homicide in Chicago, you would get phone calls on anniversaries of events, birthdays, milestones of when it happened, like anniversary dates of when the murders happened or whatever. And you would see certain milestones. 6 months is one of them. Savannah and Nancy's coming up on 6 months now.
Yep.
It'll be 6 months in a couple of days. So it could be it's a milestone. It could be it's a 6 month thing. Let's make sure everybody's still talking about this, even though everybody is. But some of the verbiage in that note suggests that possibly she is getting some coaching from behavior analysis from the FBI.
Yeah, there are a couple of the lines. I just was pulling it up here, just from the verbatim of what she said. And I know you have tried to do things the right way. So I'm asking you, begging you to do the right thing now, make the right choice, help us find her. It's just the idea of like, you tried to do things the right way. Like, what do you make of that line?
Well, so if this is in fact was a kidnapping for ransom, you had to bring the person you kidnapped somewhere. My theory on this, or my thought on this, a possibility is this plea is going out to the person who possibly wrote note number two, or possibly was supposed to be the caregiver until this ransom was paid. You see what I mean there?
Yeah.
This is somebody who maybe was supposed to be taking care of this person, and obviously she died. I believe she died. And maybe this is their appeal to this person saying, listen, you've been trying to do the right thing with the second note, apologizing, whatever. I think nobody's ever tried to do the right thing when you kidnap an 84-year-old woman. That's ridiculous. But I'm thinking maybe there's trying to appeal on a third party in this.
Well, and the interesting thing too is, so NBC did a story today on Savannah's message that she put on her social media. And then you have like a quote from Chris Nanos, who's the sheriff in Pima County. Of course, he's been at the center of a lot of criticism of this case because you're the head guy in the county where all of this went down. And his quote was, "We have so much DNA to sort through. We have so much in terms of video evidence to look at." But then like the line, which, of course, somebody's in an elected position is going to try to say like, hey, they're getting close. And I'm not saying that they aren't, but he says, "I'm still positive we're going to resolve this case." Like, resolve is just kind of an interesting word. And that's what stood out to me. Am I looking too far into it, kind of into the weeds of like word choice here? Or like when you say resolve in law enforcement, especially someone in the situation like Chris Nanos is. What does that mean to you?
Well, I've never used that word. I use cleared. We're going to clear the case. We're going to lock somebody up or whatever, resolve the case. I mean, at this point, are we thinking, here's one thing. I'm going to just hit one point you said. You said there's all this DNA and all this video. It's been 6 months. It's been 6 months, and well, I don't know that they have anything back, but they haven't released anything out to the public. And everything we sit here and talk about is all speculation because we don't know anything because we haven't seen the case file. But in 6 months, you should have something. If you have all this DNA evidence, you should have something. Now, I agreed you got to eliminate familial DNA and all that stuff, but something should be happening within 6 months. And resolve? What does that mean? What I got out of that note yesterday was a lot of, I don't think Nancy or Savannah even cares anymore if anybody's arrested. She just wants to bring her mom home.
Right. And, we'll talk a little bit more about the alleged ransom notes that were sent to media outlets. We're learning a little bit more about what was in those with some reporting that's been happening in the last couple of days. When it comes to coaching, because we'll hear, people will say, oh, Savannah is being coached in these notes, like whether it's the FBI, whether it's even a situation like maybe something you dealt with in Chicago in your career, for a big police department. Like, what does that coaching actually look like if she's getting advice from the FBI on what to say in these letters that she's putting up on social media?
You got all kind of analysts working on the content of both letters, the letters that they said may be legit, or the ones that the family believed that were legit, like letters 1 and 2. We also have people saying that none of these letters aren't legit at all, that they're not from the kidnappers or from anybody else. But you can't just dismiss them. You have to look at every lead. And certainly those letters have to be looked at. And you're having analysis, behavior analysis people who are looking at those letters, the way they're written and trying to have a response to that, to plead to, I guess, the personality or the conscience of whoever wrote those letters. So there's a bunch of analysis working on that. And we don't know that she is being coached. I just thought some of the phrasing used in her statement yesterday was suggested that she was reaching out to a specific person, to be honest.
And I also think it's important to note, like, we don't know what, if any, level of communication was made directly to the family. We know that there were messages that are alleged to be potentially authentic. There's been reports that they're not. But we don't know if there's been, each time that she is talking to the alleged kidnapper, that there isn't a whole other level of communication that we don't even know about at this point. The ransom notes, the first one that was sent to media outlets in the days after Nancy Guthrie was taken, you have this crime reporter, Brianna Whitney. She works for Crime Junkie now. And I remember when she was working as a local TV reporter in Arizona, when these notes came in, like, she read through some key parts of this ransom note. It starts with, "Hello, Savannah. We have your mother, Nancy. She is safe but scared. She will be held for ransom, and once payment is received, she will be released unharmed. We will be holding her for a maximum of 7 days." And it is interesting that in reporting that note, she says that the ransom amount, which had been reported as they wanted it in cryptocurrency, but they also wanted it in US dollars. They made it very specific. And that opens the door, at least to me, that we're talking about potentially something in Mexico, because that is just about an hour away from Tucson, where Nancy Guthrie lived.
Yeah. I mean, so here's my problem with the whole ransom thing. I've never worked a kidnapping, and I've worked a few of them, where a letter wasn't left or instant communication was not left for the family with specific instructions. This is hours and hours later, days later, when the letter, or a day later when the letter came in, right?
Right.
That's a long time for a kidnapper not to communicate with family. To me, I've never seen one that wasn't left on. I never saw a kidnapping where there was never a note left on scene or immediate communication with the family or whoever they're trying to get the ransom from. And I've never seen one where there wasn't instant proof of life. So it could be Mexico. I mean, Mexico, like you said, is only an hour away, but I believe Nancy died pretty quick after the incident, or maybe even during it. That's a long way to ride down across the border with a body in your car.
I mean, she was someone who she was, apparently very sharp mentally from what the family has said, but she had health issues. Like, she couldn't walk 50 yards, I think it was, like, on her own. And this is an 84-year-old woman, in the middle of the night being taken from her house. And then apparently in the second letter, NBC said that, whoever had written it had said that she had passed away. But again, we don't even know if those letters have anything. Are you surprised? I mean, there's so many resources put into this. I mean, even the president was talking about it. You have Kash Patel who was involved. I mean, clearly, the day that we figure out what happened, it is going to be one of the biggest news stories of the year, of the last several years, I would say. But yet it's like, we still don't know where this Bitcoin wallet was. We still don't know where these emails were coming from, at least like publicly. Like, are you surprised with all the resources the FBI has apparently put into this, along with the local sheriff's office, that it doesn't even seem like there's any sort of information about even where these ransom notes are potentially coming from? It still seems like it's up in the air whether or not they're actually legit.
Stunned. I'm stunned. Listen, I don't know how all that tracing works, but I know it gets traced. I know if I send an email, someone's going to find out where I sent the email from. Now, I know that there's ways to bounce it to different spots so you can't trace it directly, but this is the FBI. This is one of the best law enforcement agencies in the world with all the technology and all the funding. I can't, for the life of me, figure out how they don't know where these things were sent from. It's stunning to me. Now, hopefully they do, and they're not telling us, which is another hope that I have, is that they have a lot of information that they're just not releasing, and they don't have to release it. But I just worry that maybe they don't have as much as I hope they do, because I can't figure out why you wouldn't know where the Bitcoin, and they put some money into the Bitcoin to see if there was any movement on that. Nothing happened. They did pay something to that Bitcoin, if you remember, small amount of money, to see if there was any action on it. And there's never been any movement on that Bitcoin wallet.
No. And, it's just one of those things, like, as we're kind of reflecting back, coming up on 6 months of searching, it's like just this overall question of like, how do you take someone from their home in the middle of the night, someone who's related to a public person, in a case where there's so many resources and we still just don't seem to have any answers. Like, at the same time, there are a lot of cases of people who have gone missing who don't have the last name of Guthrie, who don't have the profile like this. And I guess, and it's hard to kind of articulate each one because this is such a unique case. But I mean, like, how often do you have missing persons cases where someone may even be abducted and you just never really find out where they are?
It happens. It happens. But in a lot of the cases that we have missing people, we don't know, like you said, may have been abducted. There's been no demand for ransom. And one case that comes to mind is a Chicago postal worker that went missing. Pregnant postal worker named Kiara Cole. She went missing in Chicago. It's going on 8 or 9 years ago, and she's gone without a trace. And like I said, it happens, but it usually doesn't happen with a kidnapping or an abduction, because you're doing that for some sort of financial gain or some other consideration. A ransom doesn't have to be money; it could be something else. But usually, you find those people one way or the other.
Well, and the thing is, like, we just don't know. And there's been like so much speculation. I know TMZ's received what they say are several potential ransom notes, but it's unclear whether those have any validity to them whatsoever. The idea of Mexico, I keep finding, my mind keeps going there because it just seems like such a, once you cross into Mexico, like, who knows what type of like law enforcement presence there would be to be searching for Nancy Guthrie. But it's like, you think of cartels, but it's like, at least from some people that we've talked to, is like, why would the cartel want to do something like this? Because if you're talking between, $5 and $10 million ransom, like, that's just a drop in the bucket compared to like what appears to be like their business model. Like, at this point for you, like, if you're looking at this and it's like, if they're just sitting back waiting to process DNA and video evidence, like, I just wonder, like, what type of DNA and video evidence could potentially still be out there that we don't know about. And I know that this is kind of a long way to get to the point of that question. It just seems like there are so many unanswered questions that, like, I'm personally just stumped as to like what they might still be looking at this point 6 months later.
Well, I'm going to tell you, the DNA on this, let's look at what they released on the video. The only video we see is the guy on the porch, right?
Yeah.
He's got a flashlight in his mouth. Now, I've used bite lights. They're bite lights, so you put them in your mouth. I use them. You're going to have saliva on that. You're going to have saliva on the Ring doorbell. You're going to have saliva on the foliage you pick up. There's going to be DNA transfer there, a lot of it. And even if you're wearing gloves, it doesn't stop you from putting that on the glove and then transferring it to something else. We believe that possibly, and we don't know this is all speculation, they were in that house for 45 minutes. based on the video from the Nest camera, Ring camera, whichever it was. There's no way you're in a house for 45 minutes unless you're in a spacesuit where you're not leaving some trace DNA in there. You're in a high stress situation. There's going to be sweat. You may have to use the bathroom. You may touch a counter. You know what I mean? So if it was processed properly, there could be quite a bit of DNA. I mean, you've already gotten samples from the family to eliminate family members or to eliminate profiles found in the house. Okay. It's the oddball profile that you're looking for. But now think about this. Who comes in the house? Are there cleaning ladies that come in the house? Are there gardeners that are on the property? Are there someone that takes care of the pool? All of that has to be considered as well. So 6 months of going through DNA, it seems like a real long time. With all the work that has to be done, it not necessarily is, but 6 months, you should have something.
Yeah, it's one of those cases where it's like every single day you wake up and you think about it. I feel like I think about it at least once a day for the last 6 months. I'm sure so many other people are like that. And it's like, is today going to be the day that suddenly like a news conference is called and, or there's a police scene somewhere that there's a lot of attention to it, or it could just be like the crack in the case that opens everything up. But to this point, we're closing in on 6 months with no answers. And you can see with Savannah, whether she's getting advice from law enforcement or not about these videos, just the pain that is in her voice and for her family, I'm sure, as all of this continues on. Retired Detective Commander Will Spilar with the Chicago Police Department. Always great to have you on Law and Crime. I know you have a new podcast out and you've been talking about this case as well. Like, what do people need to know about it?
Well, we got the podcast going. It's on YouTube. It's called Big City Crime Inside the Red Tape. And it's me and two other homicide detectives and an FBI agent, Maureen O'Connell, who's brilliant. She's been on a lot of different shows. She was evidence recovery and working gangs in LA for 25 years. Danny Stover, he's a homicide dick for 30 years, and his partner Tim Murphy. We all work together in the area and also in a shooting team, a police-involved shooting team that we formed and worked the last 7 years of my career. But we're just talking about things that everybody else is talking about, but just from our perspective, with all 100 years of law enforcement experience. So, Big City Crime Inside the Red Tape. Give us a look.
Absolutely, great show there to check out. Will Spilar, always great to have you on Law and Crime. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Chris.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify, and we are also streaming on Peacock. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.